O'Neill. I'm chair of. Thank you. Now that we're recording, good evening. My name is George O'Neill, chair for the Thompson Inland Wetlands Commission. I'm calling the January 11th, 2022 meeting of the Inland Wetlands Commission in order at 7 p.m. Due to the coronavirus and its variants, this meeting is being held electronically using a teleconferencing application called Zoom. So we're all operating under the following procedures. Let me read the criteria. The session is being recorded both for audio and visual content and is under the control of a Zoom host here this evening. That's Amy St. Ange. To ensure sound quality, the default rule for this meeting is that everyone will remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally keep video of themselves on throughout the meeting. Applicants and members of the public should feel free to leave their video on or off. However, they will be asked to turn on their video when speaking. If for some reason video is not available for you, you will not be precluded from speaking at the appropriate time and may listen to the meeting. During this meeting, everyone is asked to state their name each and every time they speak. Please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom to let me and the host know of this meeting, to know you want to speak. Raise your hand. Members of the public may only speak during the portion of the agenda established for citizens' comments on agenda items. I think it's important to emphasize that. Of course, at the discretion of the chair, we can allow citizens in certain instances to speak. Also, for individuals representing applicants, permittees, and violators listed in the agenda and the representatives. If you are speaking at this meeting and have a document to submit to the commission, which was not distributed in advance of the meeting, along with the rest of the materials, please indicate that you wish to submit the document. You'll need to hold it up to the camera so that the commission and all members of the public may view it. In addition, you'll be required to email an electronic version of the document in PDF format or take a photograph of it and email it. If you are on the call, please mute your mic if you aren't aware of it. To Wetlands agent at email address wetlands@thompsonct.org. Marla will include it in the permanent records of the commission. If a member of the public tries to communicate outside of the citizens' comments or on agenda items portion of the meeting, or if any person creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected by the Zoom host from the meeting upon my request. It's now time to call the roll. I think you were all able to see that, so in case if I wasn't speaking clear enough, you were able to read along with me. Okay, I'm calling the roll. Please acknowledge when I call your name by aye. Chairman Obert, Commissioner Obert, aye. Commissioner Chapin, did we lose someone? Don't we have Commissioner Chapin? Any other commissioners?
Commissioner Morano, aye.
Okay. Commissioner Morano, so we have 3. All right. I note that our Inland Wetlands agent Marla Butts is present, and also Dan Mello is here taking notes as our secretary. Appointment of alternates, there are none. Any action on the minutes of the previous meeting? Any comments or amendments, Commissioner Obert?
I didn't see anything that I thought needed to be adjusted.
All right. Morano or Chapin?
Yeah, they look fine.
All right. There you are. Yeah, I was gonna say I thought I had you for a minute and then you disappeared. So, all right. No objections. The minutes will stand as read. Agenda for this meeting should be on your screen. Can everyone see my screen? I don't want to assume you can. Yes. Thank you. All right. Here's the minutes. We've already agreed to those. Let me scroll past them. On to the next item. A lot of pages here. Okay. Citizens' comments on agenda items. So raise your hand if you have a question. Remember to unmute your mic and if possible, we'd like to see you. Okay, give you another minute just to get organized. And sometimes it's not, we aren't all accustomed to this. And okay, last call. Okay, hearing no comments, moving on to the next item. Okay, old applications. DEC 21029, Town of Thompson, 35 Marshall Street, Assessors Map 169, Block 92, Lot 13. Request for the ruling on erection of 6 to 8 sculptures in 100-foot upland review area for the French River for recreational purposes. Stamped received 9/9/21, action tabled 9/14/21, withdrawn on 1/10/22. So if this is being withdrawn, is there any further action needed on this?
Marla Butt speaking. George, on page 11, the next page down is the withdrawal
Yeah, I saw that.
statement.
Okay.
And no further action is required.
Right. Thank you. So moving on to the next item, old applications. IWA 21031, Max Candidas, 0 Sunnyside Drive, Assessors Map 133, Block 1, Lot 3. Construct a driveway and septic system for a new single-family home, portions of which are in wetlands and the 100-foot upland review area. Stamped received 11/3/21, statutorily received on 11/9/21. Where do we stand on this application?
Marla Butt speaking. On page 13 is the original drawing for this application. The site walk that was scheduled for this past Saturday was canceled due to the snowstorm. And subsequent, yesterday, I got an email from Daniel Blanchette. And I believe he is on the Zoom meeting. Daniel, are you there?
I see him. Yes, he's here. Yes,
Okay.
there you go.
I am now.
So
thank
he,
you.
so Daniel, you provided this email with an explanation as well as a cross-section. But I don't yet have the plan view of what it would look like. And so if the commission decides to go to a site walk next in February, will you be presenting a revised plan sheet for that retaining wall, proposed retaining wall?
Mr. Polingette, would you like to comment? And for
Hi,
the-
good evening, everyone. Thank you, J&D. Well, frankly, I'm hoping to talk everyone out of the retaining wall. If the commission really likes that route, I can bring it to the next meeting fully designed. But what I did for this meeting is I did a preliminary design to kind of show what it might look like. If you don't mind scrolling down one page, please. There we
On what
go. So
page?
now, so here we can see kind of the section of what a retaining wall would look like. You see the dashed line, the lower dashed line is the existing grade, right about at the distance of 38 feet. You'll see the wetland starts on the right-hand side, right where the bank flattens out, it turns into wetlands before becoming the pond. You see the proposed driveway up at the top left corner, sitting in a few feet of fill. And then on my original site plan, I was calling for a 2-to-1 slope straight down to the edge of the water. And that would involve filling about 600 square feet of wetlands. At the last meeting, I was asked to look at a retaining wall to see if that might be possible. And I think it would be possible. It would look something like this. It would be about 6 feet tall, about 100 feet long.
Mr. Blanchette, before we get too far into this, just for the record, if you just state your organization and credentials, it may have been cut out, I think, in the beginning when you tried to do that.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah,
No worries.
Daniel Blanchette. I'm a licensed civil engineer with J&D out of Thompson.
Great, thank you very much. Please proceed. So 6-foot wall.
And so, yeah, so again, that's what it would look like. I've determined that it is possible, but honestly, I don't really like it. And there's a couple reasons. First of all, I don't believe it would ever be as permanent or stable as a vegetated 2-to-1 slope. As long as that slope is vegetated, it should be very stable. It should last a long time. And whenever you have retaining walls, especially near or on the water, they just don't last as long, even if they're designed and built as well as possible. The next reason is also, again, with environmental reasons, the wall does allow us to avoid wetlands disturbance, but it creates a barrier for wildlife in that section. And so there'd be a section of the shore where wildlife can't really leave the pond. And lastly, the slope actually has some environmental benefit because it helps provide a little bit of filtration. Again, as there's salt, a little bit of sand on the driveway, it's going to go down that 2-to-1 slope and again be filtered like a grass swale would. And so by putting in a retaining wall, we're cutting out about half that slope. So again, I think the water that is reaching the pond has potential to be a little bit dirtier. And lastly, I know the commission is not as focused on this, but cost. There would be a huge cost associated with building this retaining wall. So again, for all those reasons, I'd prefer to stick with the 2-to-1 slope. But if the commission feels strongly about a retaining wall, I can come to the next meeting with that fully designed.
Thank you, Ms. Blanchett. All right, so as you've outlined it here, it looks like you've got the road driveways at the top, and this is the area that would be removed for a retaining wall. So with the retaining wall, is there any concern about potential failure? With pressure from freezing and other action on to the upside of the slope?
That's a good question, and one I can't totally answer. It's a concern of mine as well. A wall of this height would really need to have, some structural engineering. We'd have to look at the soils behind it, how heavy those are, and determine if the retaining wall is actually holding up the driveway or not. If the retaining wall is holding up the driveway because of the soils, then again, it needs to be designed that much stronger and bigger and heavier.
Good. Commissioners, I think Dale, you might want to put your mic on mute. I don't think you're aware that you're live. And
I have a couple of, Charlie, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
A couple of quick questions. Number one, the distance between the edge of the driveway and the suggested retaining wall is 30 feet about? Am I correct?
Little less than 15, I think. A little less than 15. More than probably about 12.
And the dotted line across the bottom that George has just approached there, existing. So whether you put in a retaining wall or not, you're still looking at putting in an awful lot of fill. Is this? I understand we couldn't go out and look at it because of the snow. Is this all flagged? So if we get a week when there's no snow, any of us might be able to take a drive over and look at that and become more familiar with the site? As the wetlands
Yes,
are
sir.
flagged,
Yes,
and
sir.
where that wall might be or where the driveway might be.
Yes, sir. The center line of the driveway has been staked out every 50 feet. It should be pretty obvious if anyone goes and takes a walk. I haven't marked out the wall yet. I could do that, but the driveway should be pretty easy for everyone to visualize. And also, just to touch base, you mentioned a lot of fill being brought in, and there is a lot of fill in this location, but I tried to design somewhat of a balanced site. There's other parts of the driveway that have a significant cut associated with them. So I just wanted to point that out.
And the first drawing that we saw of the site showed a pond and not the 5 Mile River. This is right in beside the 5 Mile River, correct? Yeah, it's in beside Long Pond.
Yeah, I think it's technically like a little finger off of Long Pond. Yep.
Yeah, I was looking forward to getting onto the site and taking a closer look.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead. Is that Commissioner Morano?
Yes. Would
Yes.
Use of riprap on that area be a constructive way to look at it?
In terms of
Providing
avoiding,
stability. This is in the event that you didn't use a retaining wall.
Well, so if I don't use a retaining wall, I think it is very stable. A 2-to-1 slope is considered stable for pretty much any soil, especially once it's vegetated. I don't think riprap is called for on that 2-to-1 slope, but
Thank you.
Yes, Marla?
Question,
comment?
Daniel. Using riprap, you can go to a 1-to-1 slope, correct?
I'm not sure actually what the recommendation from DOT is on that.
I believe you can, but that might be an alternative instead of a retaining wall, might reduce your footprint into that little ponded area that's you've identified as Long Pond. And I believe that area of Long Pond is segregated from Long Pond by a cross culvert under an old rail line. It's not contiguous with Long Pond. There is a crossing that it has to go through, if I'm correct.
Yes, yep, that's correct. Yeah, the a part of the old I don't know if it's the airline trail, but a part of the old railroad cuts across.
I would suggest that you look at whether or not you could go to a 1-on-1 slope where your biggest impact is into the ponded area. Not necessarily for the entire length of the ponded area, but where the steepest part is. The question is you're going to have to put in some riprap anyways where the cross culverts are, because you've got a 3-to-1 slope there, or 2-to-1 slope, depending on how you finally design it. And so if you had riprap in that location, even if it was 1-to-1, I don't think it would be a whole big difference. I
Yeah,
don't necessarily think you have to go 100 feet with a 1-on-1. We're looking at the deepest part that it goes into the pond to minimize that. And the other question that I had was whether or not you looked at snugging the driveway closer to the corner property line where you have that pin. There was a question that Fran Morano asked at the last meeting. Could you bring that driveway closer to the edge of the property line, that corner?
Yeah, so you'll see the drive. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the driveway approaches the property line closely at 2 points, kind of at the right side near the beginning of the driveway and at the left side. At the right side, I can't move it any closer. I'm right up at the property line. If you look over at the left corner, closer to the house, I could kick it in maybe 5 feet. I think I'm going into the wetlands about 20. So I couldn't avoid all wetlands impact. Again, I could tighten it up a little bit, maybe shave off 100 square feet, but at the beginning of the driveway, I can't move it.
You're just trying to address some of the issues that the DEEP had regarding this development, which they were pretty insistent that it shouldn't go on at all, according to their opinion. So I'm just trying to find ways that can minimize the destruction of wetlands. And that's why I'm looking at what kinds of alternatives. If a retaining wall doesn't work, can a riprap slope 1-to-1 for a short period of distance around that corner? Is snugging the driveway closer to the western property boundary there as it comes into the property. That might yield you a few feet, instead of being 600 square feet, maybe you'll have 500 square feet of wetlands destruction or 450 square feet. Just asking to find out what you have that you can minimize that to the greatest extent possible. And I guess I have a question to ask the commission. Marla Butt speaking. Do you want to reschedule a site walk for next month? Or do you want to go independently?
Oh, commissioners, how do you feel? I know everyone, there was a pretty large majority. I think everybody wanted to take a look at it, given the issues around it. So
What's our time frame on this application?
Well, given the fact that you were delayed in doing your site walk, I would ask for another 30-day extension from the applicant. Otherwise, you'd have to go out and look at it before the next meeting.
I
Would Mr.
fully, Charlie
Good.
Obert here.
Commissioner Obert.
I fully expect to go out before the next meeting. I think it might be a little bit more flexible if we could just go at any time that's convenient. I understand that if two of us get together, we have a meeting, so I'm perfectly willing to work around that, or if nobody else can make it, you know, I don't know. I personally want to get out there as soon as the ground is clear.
Right. I guess I share, Commissioner, as George O'Neill speaking, I share Commissioner Overt's concern, and given the nature and the factors involved and the sensitivity, we want to make sure we've taken a closer look at this. So I guess my hope would be that we could just reschedule the meeting or the site walk if the applicant was in favor of allowing an extension. That way we wouldn't find ourselves sort of up against it here. But I'd be interested in Commissioner Chapin or Commissioner Morano's view.
I'd like to see the site. But I want to be sensitive to the applicant's time frame.
Right. And Commissioner Chapin?
I don't know. I don't know right now because I'm under the weather. So getting out and doing a site walk at this point would be proved difficult for me.
I was thinking like in a few, 20 days or so, but 30
Yeah,
days.
that'd be fine.
So if I understand your recommendation or suggestion, Marla, it would be either get an extension or, have it individually go out and take a look at this without that sort of benefit of perhaps some guidance. Mr. Blanchett, how does your building's construction schedule look, and how would an extension fit into your plans?
I think the applicant would find it acceptable, but I believe Max is online, so we could maybe ask him ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Max Candidates here. I'm willing to grant an extension. I was hoping that we could get it done, maybe this meeting, but I'd still like to see if everybody could try to get it in for the next one. If not, I understand and I can go, but if things work out and people are able to go, at least a few people, I would much rather get it done sooner than later, obviously.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, so what do we have a feeling here? Does everyone feel they can get out there on their own, or would they, I don't know if we have to go with a month, but maybe we could arrange a site walk sooner? Marla, would that be something we could arrange for? Like, and
Yeah,
the snow would
you
throw
could
us
have a
off here.
special meeting. You could
Yeah,
have a special meeting.
in a week.
And we could set it up. It would have to be posted at least 24 hours in advance for the special meeting, but yeah, you could do that.
Yeah,
If that's
Sounds
what
like-
you'd like, we can try to figure out after this meeting is over, or I can contact you and find out what date might be available to everyone, whether
Right.
Saturdays are the best.
right. That sounds like a compromise that meets the applicant's scheduled time frame. And I know the commissioners like to take a look at it, and there's always a benefit of having more than one. So how do the other commissioners feel about that, Mr. Obert? Would you, Commissioner Obert, would you like schedule one in the next couple of weeks? That would keep us within the time frame.
Yes, I was just checking the weather, long-range weather forecast, trying to figure out when the ground might be clear.
But look, getting snow next month.
Better for me. The sooner the better for me.
Yep.
And,
Okay.
I'm perfectly willing to go up. I know where the site is. And as long as it's flagged, I'm willing to move.
Right.
Well, I'm also willing to go back with the group
Okay,
if I get information and we have a scheduled meeting.
all right. Commissioner Morano, I know you're trying to speak up there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It looks like we're gonna get snow next Monday. I'm eager to go. I have a conflict midday on Saturday, but we usually go earlier than that.
Yeah. So the same target, perhaps we could schedule, would give us more than our 24-hour notice. We could target it for this upcoming Saturday. Then we could, all take a look and have it be in a position to possibly do that. I know that I certainly can do that on Saturday. How about Commissioner Chapin? Is that too soon, do you think, or?
Sorry about that. That might be fine.
All right. So it sounds like maybe what we do is have a special meeting to take a look at this. Tentatively, I think we need to confirm back, but let's keep it open, and Marla will coordinate a time on the upcoming Saturday, which is a few days off, and certainly before the weather comes in again. This time of year can be problematic for a bunch of reasons, and this way we can certainly not hinder potential work if that's the direction it goes in. So, all right, I think we've reached a conclusion on that, and so I think we let it. We don't have to take any action now as far as approving. We just will try to set up a special meeting and take a look at it on Saturday if that's possible. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll coordinate, let you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we'll, Mr. Blanchett and Mr. Candidas will let you know when we're going to go out there. Maybe if you're, if there's additional information we need, you can let us know about it. But hopefully there'll be a lot more visibility given the nature of what we're doing. All right, moving on to the next item. Let me check my volume here. Not doing so good with this. All right. Agenda item EB1, new applications. DEC 21035, Linda Manning, 444 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 103, Block 41, Lot 1. Timber harvest, stamped received on 12/15/21. And I think we have a map orientation here for Marla. Do you have any comments relating to this?
Yeah, Marla Butt speaking. I felt this map would be better to illustrate what the conditions are, because you can kind of see where the wetlands are and the water courses are by looking at this 2016 aerial photograph with the 2-foot contours on it. When you scroll down to the request form for the timber harvest and you look at the drawings that's shown on page 20, you'll see that there are 4 wetland watercourse crossings. They call them wetlands crossings. Actually, looks like it could be 5. And the application indicated that I believe we have the harvester here, Austin Harmon from Hull Forest Products, and he can explain the operation to you.
Okay, Mr. Harmon.
Hello, everyone. Austin Harmon, Hull Forest Products. I'm a supervising forest products harvester. So
Welcome.
thank you, Marla, and thank you to the commission for having us here. So as you can see, Marla summed it up pretty well. By looking at the legend in the map, you can see where the water courses are. There's a light blue line, neon blue line running through part of the water course. That is the only stream identifiable on the property. The rest are just stagnant wetlands. That's important to mention. And there are 5 technical wetland crossings. 2 of them, as you see, are the very ones to the top right. Those 2 are very close to each other. You could consider them 1. I consider them 2. Better to be safe than sorry. Linda Manning's hoping to have this property harvested by June at the latest. So the sooner we can get this done and approved, the better. Yeah. Anyone have any questions, any concerns, any other?
Well, thank you, Mr. Harmon, for the comments. I'm sure the commissioners probably have some questions. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Harmon? Well, I guess I'll start. Go ahead. Who was that?
Marla Butt speaking.
Yes, Marla.
In the Zoom documents since he is crossing a water course, I asked him what the means by which he would cross the water course with, and he said that they could use temporary bridges. And so I asked him to give me some examples. So there are in the Zoom documents on page 21 and 22 showing how water courses can be crossed. with timbers, and perhaps Austin could explain those, when they're used and how long they're used and what they do with them when they're done.
Yes, Mr. Harmon, would you be able to address that? There you go.
Of course, thank you very much for bringing that up, Marla. So there are two techniques typically used for crossing a water course. This depends on how well drained the soils are, what kind of water course it is, how long it is, and what kind of machinery and equipment's going over it, as well as the time of the year being used and precipitation and annual factors that come up seasonally. In this illustration, you see these are timber bridges. These are big blocks of wood all put together in literally a bridge sort of format, where they lay them down over the stream or the water course. In this case, it looks like a small stream from another one of our jobs. And the logger uses that to drive over the water course with very minimal impact to the bank and the stream bed itself. The less impact, the better. We tried planning this out so it's the shortest area of the water course that we're crossing, and to minimize the impact. This is just what you see in the photograph, depending on the conditions, and however else we need to do it as seemed necessary by the logger. We also put corduroy, which you see at the ends, either blocks of logs that are being unused from the harvest that would typically just be left on the forest floor, or branches and stems and other woody debris that would help stabilize the area leading up to and coming down from the water course. So these are two main ways of doing this. Post-harvest, when these are pulled out, post-harvest when we're done, typically we come in and seed and hay as deemed necessary. I'm guessing on this property, it might be necessary in some areas, as some areas are fairly wet next to the water courses. It all depends on conditions post-harvest, how we see it. But if there is work that does need to be done, we can as well fix it with the machinery post or during harvest. Like I said, it all depends on how it ends up coming out.
Mr. Harmon, what kind of what weight design spec do you use for this crossing?
Can you rephrase that again, Mr. O'Neill? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't hear you too well.
Right. How heavy is the machinery, and how does that compare to the weight load capacity of these logs? I mean, do you have them cave in a lot, or is it sort of do you have an engineer take a look at the weight or the equipment? I mean, how heavy is your skidder, or I'm not sure what type of equipment you're using, trucks or?
For these water course crossings, that none of these would be used with trucks. They would be used with the logging equipment. In this case, we're most likely going to be using a forwarder, where it's a big machine that has a carriage that carries the logs on top of the machine rather than dragging them on the floor. That's another important aspect for stabilization in this case, rather than dragging the logs on the forest floor and possibly hitting the stream bed. They're carrying them on, so only the wheels are in contact with the forest floor, and in this case, the embankments up to the stream. I'm not sure exactly what the speculation is for the machine. It depends on the size of the machine and the load it's also carrying, how many logs or what kind of wood product is on it. I know it's multiple tons. They're very big and very heavy machines, as can be seen. We do use bridges for an extensive amount of time. Some of them do become worn out. In this case, they wouldn't be used if they're too worn out, or we believe they're not too worn out. That's up to our judgment and the loggers. They all know what they're doing fairly well, and I trust their judgment in this case. If I don't, then we will step in and intervene, but there shouldn't be any issue with the engineering behind the process. It's been done multiple times and it's never failed us.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mike Bartlett here with All Forest Products.
Oh, of course, yes. Go ahead.
We've been using these types of bridges for probably close to 20 years now. I do not recall ever one failing on a crossing. So as far as technically an engineer designing them, hasn't been the case, but we've been using them for a long time, and work very well to protect the wetland resources. As you could see in the one photo where you had long approaches, that's a job in Mansfield that's going on right now. I would say on the job that Austin has planned here on the Mannings, some of those are long. Some of them, in my mind, are questionable as to even whether they're wetlands. Yeah, there's some water sitting there now because of the amount of precipitation we've had this year. But There is a number of crossings there, but I think by the use of these mats, not only on the crossings, but on, any of the soft spots, it's a lot easier for the loggers to put these mats in place than to spend time putting in the smaller corduroy. The mats are approximately 4 feet wide and 16 feet long and fairly easy to put in place and with relatively minimal cost, and do an excellent job of protecting the wetland resources.
Okay. Thank you for that additional information, insight. Certainly, not all of us had the opportunity to be in a logging operation, so that added color is appreciated. Plus, the photos are give you a better insight on this. And I guess any damage would be, any intrusion would be temporary, and most likely things would resume or revert back to where they were. Any other commissioners have questions?
And one other item
Yeah.
I'd like to mention is the crossings at Manning's have all been used in previous harvest operations, and many of them are on existing roadways or paths that are open now.
Okay. So it seems like it's a proven technique. Commissioner Obert, any comments? No. Commissioner Chapin or? No, nothing else. All right. So at this point, I think we've got as much information as we need. What action must we take now, Marla?
You need a motion to approve or deny, one or the other. You need a motion.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. I don't have the application number in front of me.
Okay.
Uh,
Let me bring it up here somewhere. It's DEC 21035.
Make a motion to approve DEC 21035 of Linda Manning, 444 Thompson Road. Assessors map 103, block 4, lot 1 for timber harvest.
Commissioner
We have a
Chapin, I'll
motion.
second it.
So I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
I have one quick question here, Charlie Obert, Commissioner.
Yes, Commissioner.
Timeline on this again? I thought I heard somebody say June.
Perhaps, yeah, Mr. Harmon or
They would like to have it done by June.
That's correct. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, they're hoping of having it done by June. It would be best to have this harvest take place during frozen soil conditions or during a drier area. So we're hoping to get it done most likely sooner than later, because there's better chance of us getting frozen conditions than there are dry conditions at this point, it seems.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant or the contractor? All right, then at this point we'll we have a motion and a second. I will go to a vote. All those in favor will say aye, and opposed say nay, and I'll call you individually. Commissioner Obert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Marin,
Aye.
and O'Neill, aye. Okay, we have a unanimous approval of the application. So thank you, gentlemen, for your insights, and enjoy harvesting.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to
Thank
the
you,
next.
Commission.
You're welcome. Moving on to the next item, if I can move it fast enough here. So we have WAA 2, this is new applications. WAA 22001, Daniel J. Robbins, 0 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 87, Block 37, Lot 2C. Construct new single-family home, septic system and driveway, portions of which are in the 100-foot upland review area, stamped received on 1/5/22, under review.
Marla Butt speaking. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you a plan view of this. I do not have a PDF file of it. And I am waiting for the Northeast District Department of Health's approval of the septic design. So it will be on hold until I get that. And so it'll most likely show up on the next meeting, and you'll get to see a drawing of it at that time.
Okay,
No action required by the commission.
right, it's been received. Thank you very much. On to the next new application, number 3. IWA 22002, Strategic Commercial Realty LLC, 0 West Thompson Road, Assessors Map 65, Block 101, Lot 9. Earth moving associated with the mining, 1 million cubic yards of earth, materials rather, portions of which are in the 100-foot upland review area, stand received on 1/6/22, to be statutorily received on 1/11/22. Is there an amendment to this application? Did I read, or is this how it's?
No, yes. It is not an LLC. Strategic Commercial Realty is a corporation. And so that's a misnomer. Unfortunately, it was a typo on my part. And it should be Strategic Commercial Realty, Inc. And unfortunately, I did not get the PDF files until today for the plans. So, and the scanner, our flatbed scanner was not working properly. So unfortunately, I cannot show you any of the plans. But what I would suggest is that you may want to consider doing a site walk on this. This is, unfortunately, I also put in the wrong locus map. If you go to page 25 of 80, that should have been the Strategic Commercial Realty site, but that's the Robbins site, the one before. And I apparently didn't put in the right screenshot for Strategic Commercial Realty. However, what I can do is I can forward to you, now that I have the PDFs, I actually have a hard copy for each one of you that I can mail to you of this. It's a mining operation, and Attorney Heller is on the Zoom meeting and could probably give you a very brief oversight of what the application entails. And then I would contact you independently to find out if you want to do a site walk or not, or if you want to just independently look at the site.
All right. Thank you, Marla. Attorney Heller, would you like to make comments regarding this application?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Harry Heller. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Heller, McCoy. Our office is at 736 Norwich New London Turnpike in Uncasville, and I'm representing the applicant Strategic Commercial Realty. Also on the call this evening, if you have any questions, is our design engineer, David Held. This is an application for primarily rock extraction. It's in 4 phases, totaling about 1 million cubic yards of rock. The property address is 0 West Thompson Road, but the property is adjacent southerly to the existing earth product processing and mining operation of Strategic that is located off of Reardon Road. And this property will be accessed from the adjacent Strategic property, and all of the material extracted from this site will be taken to the adjacent property to the north for processing. The French River abuts this property to the east, and we have a side hill wetland system that in elevation wise descends from west to east towards the French River on the north side of the site. And that is a wooded wetland system. There are no proposed direct impacts to wetlands or watercourses in conjunction with this application. Because the French River is obviously a very significant resource, we've designed an erosion and sediment control methodology that is somewhat non-traditional in order to protect this resource. So initially we would come in and we've given you a narrative on how we do this that's part of the application, but we would clear enough to get in the silt fence, and the silt fence would be put up sequentially same day that the clearing occurs. And when I say the clearing, probably a swath about 25 or 30 feet wide, just significant enough to allow us to get the erosion and sediment control measures in place. Once the silt fence is up, then the design engineer has designed a 10-foot high vegetated berm, which will extend the entire length of the operation from north to south. And that will be constructed with site material, and it will be vegetated and will remain in place for the duration of the excavation. There are sediment traps that will be constructed behind that berm, and the engineer has designed a stone wick, he calls them. It's a bleed out, so that if we have ponded water that builds up behind the berm, it meters it out at a controlled rate under the berm. The extraction at its highest point is about 90 feet of rock removal. As I indicated, it's in 4 phases that will be conducted sequentially. Phase 1 in the northeasterly portion of the site, phase 2, the northwesterly portion, phase 3, the southeasterly portion, and phase 4, the southwesterly portion. The other resource that we have, as I indicated, is the wooded side hill wetland that is located along the northerly periphery of the property. And that is the area where we're proposing to be extracting within the upland review area. We do not anticipate that we are going to impact that resource as a result of this operation. However, because it is rock extraction, there are 2 potential impacts to that wetland that could occur from this operation. The first potential impact is we are going to remove, as a result of this extraction, about 39% of the contributing area to the hydrology of that wetland system. Now, there is a second wetland system located between this site and the extraction operation that's occurring on the strategic property to the north. And it's a similar side hill wetland system, and the extraction on that property conducted in relatively the same proximity as we're proposing here has not adversely impacted that wetland system. Now, the second potential impact is because we're cutting significantly below grade of the wetland system, is whether or not there will be any bleed out from that wetland system through the rock. And again, because of the characteristics of the rock and its similarity to the property to the north, there has been no experience of bleed out to affecting the wetland system to the north. However, we recognize the fact that you're dealing with rock and geologic conditions, and there's no way to know for sure until the operation is conducted whether or not there will be an impact. So what we are proposing is that the applicant be required to monitor the operation from the date that it begins at semi-annual increments for a period continuing through 5 years post-completion of the operation. And that the applicant bond at the time that the operation starts, both for the monitoring and for mitigation if adverse impacts are encountered as a result of this operation. And if adverse impacts are encountered, that the applicant be required to provide a mitigation plan to the commission for approval and to construct that mitigation before the bond is released. So that's the gist of the application. Either myself or Dave will be glad to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. That was very thorough for a brief comment. So thank you very much. You were really on top of this. Can everyone see this map I brought up? Is there a map on your screen? No, no map.
No.
Try to bring up the map that shows this.
No map.
All right, so let me try this again. me just do a quick, I just want to make for orientation purposes, because a million cubic anything is a lot, no matter how you slice it. And let me try this one.
Sure.
Share.
George, while you're doing that, Marla Butt speaking, while you're
Go ahead.
doing that, for the commissioner's information, the description of the wetlands mitigation, if required, is identified on page 45 of the Zoom documents. Yeah. And is that a live screen for Map Geo,
Yes,
George?
Thompson, Map Geo, yes.
Then change the theme. Go to themes up in the upper right-hand corner, change that to base theme 2016.
25th, this 19
See the base theme? It's a pull down.
up here, I'm sorry.
Yep,
19.
open it up.
That's
No,
it.
pull down the,
The base
see the
theme, I
Google
get it.
map?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pull down menu.
I
Open
know,
it
I
up.
pulled it down. Which choice do you want? Satellite,
Oh,
photo, 19,
2016,
16? Okay, 16.
2016.
All right, there it
That's
is.
the best aerial photo.
All right. All right, just so we're all on this, sort of on the same page here. How's that? I just want to make sure we have an orientation. So here's West Thompson Lake
So
on the
you can
left.
see the existing mining operation in that photograph. And
Yeah.
the property that Mr.
Yep.
Hellier was referring to was to the south of that.
Yeah, I believe
lost
that map shows the property lines.
It looks like, yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah,
it looks
there you
like it.
go.
Good. So, so this area here is our existing mining,
Correct.
2016. And the area you're going to be explaining, now there's three, you said 4 quadrants. So,
Look, it's the property immediately to the south of that. You can see the French River there.
right, here's the French
There-
River.
there- That's the property. So phase 1 is the northeast quadrant of that property. And phase 2 is the northwest quadrant. Phase 3 is the southeast quadrant, and phase 4 is the southwest quadrant.
Southwest, okay. This section over
So-
here, is this going to be touched?
No,
No.
no, that's off property.
Oh, it's outside, okay.
Marla Butt speaking. So because of the complexity of a mining operation, which the commission probably doesn't have really an understanding of, I thought it would be of value for the commission to do a site walk, starting at the existing mining operation so they could see what a mining operation was, and then walk to the proposed mining operation by walking to the south. Then they could look at the existing wetland system that borders the existing mining operation, and they can look at the wetland system that's going to be proposed to be impacted by potential new mining operation on the property to the south. I would encourage the commission members to take a look at it. If they can do it independently or do it as a site walk, I would recommend a site walk. I found it very helpful. I did an inspection of the current operation a couple of weeks ago. I believe I reported it in the December wetlands agent report with the operator, Harold Hopkins, I think it's Harold, of French River Materials. And he gave a good explanation as to how the operation runs. And it would be helpful for the commission to see how that would work. I just think it's an educational thing above everything else, because technically they're not doing any work in wetlands or watercourses. All the work, grading work, would be in the upland review area.
Yeah.
But they came in with an individual permit so that you can process it as a permit. And they did this with the strategic commercial realty property up there on 363 Quatictown Farm Road. And I think that's a useful way. And Charlie was on that site walk at 363, and I think it was helpful to see what the sites looked like so that you could better understand what was the potential for going on.
Yes, maybe a question, or maybe not to ask too many, but Attorney Heller, you mentioned there would be a berm. Is that going to be along this area here?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's right. That makes sense. Okay, so this area to the right of that marked, this section over here would be sensitive wetlands. I guess,
Correct.
whatever, I don't have high resolution, but something up in this area. And all the rest, that would put sort of buffer any unexpected activity, I guess, from going into the wetlands. And that's the area that, from a wetlands commission standpoint, that we're really focusing on, right, Marla? We've got 100, our buffer is in our area, but it's going to be
No,
approximate.
no, that unfortunately, Drew, that is not the area. The area that is in the 100-foot upland review area is to the north along the northern border of that property.
Huh.
That is a significant wetland that you had identified, but the
Yeah.
work in the upland review area is along the northern border. That wetland system that he was referring to, that
Right.
is loses about a third of its watershed.
Is that up here?
That's the one
No,
that came in from the existing operation.
Right.
Yeah, just south
Yeah.
of that line, right in there. And it's a side hill that descends from west to east.
Okay,
And
from west
then-
to east. So there's a hill here. It looks like a crest. So it comes this
That's
way.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and as Marla indicated, that wetland on the east side of the property associated with the French River is so sensitive that we've, avoided even encroaching into the upland review area there.
Just to get an idea, it's a lot of real estate there, and certainly, I think it'd be, certainly for myself, I'd want to take a walk, not by myself, because if I fell down, I might not. Someone's got to come and get me. There's a lot of real estate out there. Bring my GPS with me.
And Mr. Chairman, because this is an active industrial operation,
Yeah.
we can't have people walking around on the site
Right.
unescorted. So we should do it as, schedule it as a special meeting, and either Dave, myself, or both will be out there to conduct a field walk with the commission.
Okay. Oh, I'm sure the commissioners have some questions. Commissioner Obert, any questions?
Yeah, at about 12:30 today, we got the application and attached to an email, so I looked at that area. I'm very much interested to see how close to that marshy area you intend to go. And I definitely want to see that as part of a group, as a sidewalk.
Sure. Commissioner Chapin or Moreno?
No questions.
No, nothing.
All right. So we've received the application. You may have mentioned this, and I may have been fiddling with the map. What's your time horizon for the development of this site? Is it like a 5-year period or longer? Or?
Well, because of the size of Strategic and, their place in the marketplace, we're permitting projects now that probably will not start for 5 to 10 years. So we're projecting this project to start somewhere around 2026 and be about a 5-year project. Obviously, these things are somewhat market dependent.
Sure. Great. Thank you for clarifying that. And you did mention that Mr. Held is on the line here. Mr. Held, do you have any additional comment, or do you want to make any comments or not?
David Held with Provost and Rivero. I don't have any other comments. The only thing I would offer is, if you do want to see the plans on the screen, I'm happy to share my screen if I'm allowed to do that.
Sure, we can do that. I mean, let's bring it up. I mean, this is a graphical world. Let me, I think there's a button at the bottom there somewhere that you can, let me stop sharing mine and move that out. Yep. Give it a shot. Should be a green button there.
All right, can everybody see?
Start, there it is. There you go.
So this is the overall plan here. I will go up one sheet. This is the cover sheet. This shows the aerial photo. This is a 2019 aerial, so similar to the 2016 that you were looking at previously.
Right.
You can see on the north side there where the existing strategic operation is, and then to the south, the abutting property, which is the subject of this application, along with the limits of the actual project within that property. And then down here, this is the overall plan for the subject property, and you can see here, this is the side hill wetland system running along the northerly boundary that Attorney Heller was referring to, sloping from west to east down, eventually draining into the French River. This is the French River area here, which constitutes the easterly boundary of the subject property. And then there's some other wetlands up on that embankment to the west of the French River that drain down into it. And the excavation contemplated in the 4 phases. The other noteworthy item you can see here, these are the detailed grading sheets at 40 scale. You can see this is the side hill wetland here on the northerly side. And down here on the east, the limits of phase 1 and phase 3 is where that vegetated berm will be, which would be constructed at the outset of the operation. And you can see this is a cross section here. This is cross section AA. So this is basically, you slice the property in half on a line running east-west. You can see down at the down gradient side here what that vegetated berm would look like in relation to the proposed excavation floor and the proposed final restoration grades. So this will be an effective means of self-containment for the excavation site throughout the entire operation. Similarly, this is another section going north-south. And here I'll zoom in a little bit on this, but this is a detail of that vegetated berm. So as Attorney Heller was mentioning, we've designed this to prevent significant ponding up against the berm. We're proposing basically to discharge all the accumulated runoff that might be there in a storm event back into the groundwater. And the grading and the amount of soil overburden that we have over the bedrock there based on test pits that we've done will allow us to do this. So we're basically going to be installing a 2-foot thick bed of free draining material, either coarse gravel or crushed stone, which would be encased with filter fabric. And then the earthen portion of the berm would be constructed on top of that. So we'll have this free draining layer, which is exposed to the excavation face on the westerly side, allowing the water to infiltrate into the ground. And with the grading that we've shown, this free draining base layer will never be exposed to the surface on the down gradient side. So everything will be infiltrating into the natural free draining soils there. So it provides, for lack of a better term, very, very good idiot proofing of the site where nothing would ever be able to escape from a stormwater perspective. And we're not creating a discharge or any potential for discharge. So it makes the site very safe being located adjacent to those wetland resources.
Thank you for that additional insight. That's very helpful. All right, any other commissioners have questions? Or I guess at this point, if there are none, we can, we've noted that it's been received and we just need to perhaps organize a site inspection. Sorry for the background noise here.
Marla Butt speaking.
Dogs want to get in on the deal. I'm on mute here if I can find it.
I'm going to recommend that you do it as a regular Saturday site walk, which is already scheduled for February, since there isn't a rush on processing this application at this time.
Great. Let's, does anyone agree? We don't have to do anything further, but I think everyone would like to take a look at it, and we have to coordinate it due to safety and probably a few other logistics. A lot big chunk of real estate there. So, all right. There's no other comments.
And when will that site walk be?
That would be on the 5th of February,
Okay,
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock? Okay,
Mhm.
yep, that'll be fine.
All right. So I guess we'll move on to the next item. Let's see.
Thank you, commissioners.
Welcome.
evening.
Good night. Get to the next item here. I'm going to flip through everything. All right.
I want to go to page 51.
51. Okay, we're almost there. Okay. All right. Agenda item 4 new applications. DEC 22003-1267 Thompson LLC. Cheryl Papiak, manager. 1267 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 16A. Replace existing septic tank, construct 2 stone walls and associated grading for maintenance and enjoyment of a residential home, in addition to the work already approved under Wetlands Agent Approval, WAA 21032. All right, so got the approval already in place. What additional information do you have for us on this, Marla?
Okay, if you go to page 55, is a site plan.
Okay.
Now, what was previously approved on this application was the shed, which is listed as proposed heated garage at the front of the residence. This is a multi-unit residence. I believe there are 4 units or 3 units associated with the residence. I believe there's 3 in the main house, and then there's a portion to the south that is being reconstructed. A very tiny portion of that reconstruction is in the upland review area, and so the work that was previously approved was the heated garage and a little corner of the building that was wasn't clear exactly where the upland review area was, because it wasn't really clear at the time that the original application came in exactly where the wetlands boundary was. But then afterwards, Ms. Popiak, and she is the manager of the owner. The owner is 1267 Thompson LLC, and she is the managing member. And what she wants to do is create some stone walls that are located on the northern side of her property boundary. They are shown on the drawing. And she also needs to found it that she's going to have to replace at least the septic tank. And she has had her septic tank installer has been in contact with the Northeast District Department of Health, and it's well away from the wetlands. And I don't see this as being a problem. She could have come in and asked for a modification of the wetlands agent approval, but she chose to come in as a request for maintenance and enjoyment of residential home, using this plan as the plan that she would use for any work that is in the upland review area that was not identified on the original wetlands agent approval. I have no objection to the commission granting a use permitted as of right for maintenance and enjoyment of residential home that is consistent with this drawing.
Does this require a vote on behalf of the commission?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So do we have a motion? Sorry.
It's a request for a declaratory ruling.
All right. They're just going to put these stone walls in up here, which are indicated on the drawings. Does that
Yes.
include this other one in the back here?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And the septic tank is shown in a square where the area of disturbance would be for replacing the tank. And then there's some grading work that's associated to the rear of the proposed.
That's the metal tank
Was it
right here. There's
yes,
one there.
that's
There's
a
a
metal
sewer
ta-
line.
that-
Yeah, that's your tank.
No, yeah, it's
No?
just the tank at this point in time.
Okay.
She has indicated that the health department says that everything else in her system is okay, but the tank needs to be replaced.
It's always best to have them come to us in advance. Do you have any questions or comments for Marla on this? Commissioners? Do you have a motion to approve or to vote?
I would make a motion that we approve this application. The exact language is what Marla just said a few minutes ago, but including that the, oh geez, I can't remember the. There was something there that she said about monitoring it as it progressed, and I'm sorry, I don't recall the exact term.
Marla?
There's, as with any application, if I needed to go out and look at something, as I drive by, a lot of times I will take a look at things, but I don't normally set up something specific for monitoring. The language for the motion would be under the item EB4, so which is on your screen right now.
Right. It's in there.
Okay,
No?
then I'll make the motion that we approve DEC 22003 for work at 1267 Thompson in the property of Cheryl Popiak, and that the work to replace existing septic tank and to construct stone walls as outlined on this application that we're looking at tonight.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, Commissioner Moreno had a second. Any discussion? Okay, no hearing, no discussion. We can vote. In order, we'll ask the commissioners to vote. Commissioner Obert,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Moreno,
Aye.
and Commissioner O'Neill. Aye. Okay, we have a unanimous approval of DEC 22003. Thank you, commissioners. Moving on to the next application. Let me scroll through this. Any applications received after the agenda was published? So there's none.
No,
Permit extensions, none. Agenda item HA violations and pending enforcement actions. We have notice of violation VIOL 21019, LAS Properties LLC, 715 Riverside Drive, Assessors Map 63, Block 58, Lot 23. Unauthorized structures diverting watercourse flooding Thatcher Road and Riverside Drive issued on 7/7/21. Status update. What's the status of this?
Marla Butt speaking. A couple of weeks ago, I met on site with the owner of the LLC. Her name is Tracy Liz, and she has been having difficulty with her tenants. And I agreed that I would send her a follow-up letter requesting that any structures, there's one, looks like a playhouse of some sort, which she claims was recently built, although I haven't been able to verify that from the photographs that I had. I think it was a structure that was just never taken down, but she says it was. And so I will be sending a letter asking for that to be removed, as well as any other materials that have landed within the channel. It's not going to resolve the entire problem there, because heavy flows will cause that intermittent water course drainage way to jump its channel. But I need to send a letter to her following up from the inspection that I did with her a couple of weeks ago.
All right.
She's agreed to remove them, whatever structure's there, but she's having problems with her tenants.
Okay, well, it's certainly her responsibility as the owner. Commissioners, any questions for Marla on this violation?
No.
Oh, I have none.
All right. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. HB, violations of pending enforcement actions. Notice of violation via VIOL 21023, Jamie Pettit, 0 and 73 Center Street. Assessors map 16, block X, lots H and 2. Unauthorized construction of retaining wall and associated backfill in or near Little Pond, issued on 8/24/21. Status report. Where does it stand?
Okay, Marla Beth speaking. Today, I received a letter from Norman Tybo, PE of Killingly Engineering, dated January 10th of yesterday, actually. And unfortunately, because it came in today, it was not put in the Zoom documents. So I will read to you what he wrote. Dear Marla, per your request, Killingly Engineering Associates inspected a previously installed retaining wall at the referenced address to evaluate the stability of the installation. The wall was constructed by the owner and is approximately 2 feet in height above the current water level of Little Pond. Upon initial inspection, the wall appears to be a typical stacked stone block retaining wall. These styles of walls generally have interlocking channels, courses between courses, and are generally pinned together to form a wall system, which are resistant to failure as blocks will not individually shift. These types of walls do not require engineering if they are less than 48 inches high. This wall that was utilized for this application is shown in the backfill trap retaining wall, where there is a decorative concrete face with a with a pocket in the back that is filled with a backfill material to hold it in place. These types of walls are often used in highway applications where the ability to tie them back is limited, and the backfill trap is a method that provides stability for greater heights. The wall at 73 Center Street is only 2 feet in height and appears to be properly installed. Photo 1 at the end of this report shows how these styles of walls are installed, and photos 2 through 4 show the actual wall as installed. Since this wall in question utilizes the backfill trap style of wall and is only 2 feet high, it is my professional opinion that the wall is structurally sound and would not be prone to failure over time. Please call me if you have any questions, and it's signed and sealed by Norman Tybo, Jr., PE. So the only thing that's left outstanding for this violation is what the actual property boundaries are. The question was the old property boundary violated by a prior owner? And they did do a plan, but it didn't show where the historic property lines were along the water's edge, where this retaining wall was. So that's the only thing hanging out. And what I would recommend at this time is to, I'll contact Greg Glaude, who works for Killingly Engineering, who was doing the survey work for it, to find out if he was able to find out the information about where the historic property boundary was before this wall was ever built. And I can bring this back to you at the next meeting so that you can decide what you want to do with it. Do you want an after the fact permit to be applied for, or do you want to do nothing? This is up to you. This is your choice. But I would recommend, that's a little early, George, your screen sharing. I would recommend that it be discussed at the next meeting and a course of action determined. And at that time, I can post Mr. Tybo's full documents with the photographs that he showed along with it.
Well, it certainly makes perfect sense to me to assess all the information you've been provided and to review it before we take any further action. But commissioners, how do you feel on this matter? How would you like to proceed?
This is Commissioner Robert. My thinking is that we need to, if they are in violation of the historical property lines, that's a separate issue. if the construction of the retaining wall, and I did see photographs of this today, so I don't know if they're not in your package, but if the construction of the retaining wall looks like it's right up at the water's edge, and then there's maybe 18 inches or so of fill behind it. So I don't know if they are in violation of the property lines, that goes beyond our purview, except that they're going into the water with it. I think we need to see that information quantified.
Thank you, Commissioner Obert. Commissioner Morano, you have some comments?
It sounds as though the construction that happened though predated the present owner.
Marla Butt speaking. The current wall was replacing a wall that had been built by a prior owner. So
Okay,
the
and the
current
foot-
wall,
The same?
that's what the owner says, and that's what appears to be. Yes.
Okay.
That's the evidence that I have.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think the best thing to do is be to collect all that information, find out exactly, what they know about the historic property line. Nobody knows who owns the bottom of Little Pond. It's very similar to the Aquatic Reservoir issue, where I believe it was Mr. Jasmine who had a portion of a wall that extended beyond his property boundary line into the lake. And the commission granted a permit for everything that was on his property, but did not grant him any permit for anything that was not on his property. So the question just is where's the property boundary?
Thank you, Marla. Commissioner Chapin, any?
No, I think
Comment?
we need to wait and see what we find out about that information.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so it seems like we have a fairly good consensus that we need additional information before we can make an informed decision on this. So please proceed with obtaining, as you outlined, the additional data and put it together, and let's have something we can look at, because there's a lot of moving parts, and we want to get the facts right before actions taken. All right, thank you. Moving on to the next violation, item C, violations. So we have notice of permit violation, VIOL 21036, permit IWA 20022, Mock Bear 1227 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 10. Grades not as authorized in modified plan approved by Commission on 2/9/21. So, Marla, what additional information can you provide?
Okay, if you scroll to page
Mhm.
61, this is the notice of permit violation that I issued, complying with the directions that you gave me at last month's meeting, where you wanted the work stopped along the old well, and the grades restored at that location in accordance with the modified approved plan. And then you also wanted a schedule for the completion of all earth moving work that's covered by the permit, including the establishment of those grades that are south of the driveway where there is stone and other materials stockpiled. And you also wanted the submission of an as-built drawing with any certification that might be required. And then in accordance with the schedule, once the commission gets a schedule and finds it to be acceptable, the commission would want an as-built drawing showing all the different modifications to a scale that's similar to that which was to the same scale that was originally approved by the commission in February 9th of 2021. And that for any retaining wall that's taller than 6 feet or greater in height, that it be certified by a professional engineer licensed to practice in Connecticut, that retaining wall was constructed to meet the requirements of standard engineering practices for its intended use. And so then along with that letter, I did send a couple of photographs. And the first one on page 63 shows the old well that has some concrete structures, it looks like two sections placed on top of it. And then the retaining wall that was originally authorized extending beyond what it was authorized. You can see in the way the wall was constructed looks like it was constructed quite well. It has drainage behind it that adequately drains so that you don't have a buildup of hydrostatic pressure, but it's built way beyond what was shown on the original plans. And this is fairly close to the property line of the Hager property. The second photograph was taken on the same day across the lake, and it shows the site in general. You can see the two retaining walls in the middle of the picture. The one right closest to the lake is the one that the commissioner granted the first modification for. And the second wall came in the second modification, and you can see the wellhead is there on the left-hand side of the photograph. It's the white spot next to an evergreen tree. And you can see the material that has been stockpiled. You can see the machine, the orange colored machine that's up above it, where there's extra stone that's still stockpiled next to the driveways on the south side of the driveway. And then you can see the foundation of the house, which behind it are two retaining walls, which are being used to help hold up the embankment to Route 193. If you go down to page 65, that's the approved drawing that was approved by you in February of 2021. You can see that the proposed well, it says proposed well, that's the old well. And you don't see any grades there. You don't see any change in grades around that well. And the retaining wall now extends almost to the property line. Excuse me, that doesn't show that doesn't show the old well, it shows the proposed well. The old well is located closer to the property line. Then if you look closer to Route 193, you see one retaining wall behind the house, which is has a jut out. The retaining walls that are there now, there are two of them. One is higher up on the bank, and then there's one closer to the house itself. So the retaining walls aren't positioned where, and the grades aren't as was originally shown on the approved drawing. So because of all of those, copies have gone electronically to the Department of Transportation. And I received a call from the Department of Transportation, a gentleman by the name of Jamie Fellows, that said that he had been told by Patrick Wall, the contractor, that he was going to be giving him some sort of plans, and he hadn't gotten any. And I also sent a copy to the Northeast District Department of Health along with this, and so that they could see whether or not they had any issues. The septic system has not been constructed yet, so I doubt that they would have any concerns there, because it doesn't look like the ground has been modified there, since the system has to go into native ground. But now I'm just waiting for a response from Mr. Bear, and I believe he's on this meeting.
Okay, so thank you, Marla. And Mr. Bear, if you're present, would you like to address the commission?
Yes, good evening.
Thank you. Welcome, sir.
I got this statement yesterday by email. I was not aware that the grading is wrong, the wall's too long. I had a massive heart attack in the middle of the summer.
Oh, goodness.
So I'm just
sorry to
getting
hear.
back on my feet. I did ask Marla if there was a problem on this site to give me a call, which I don't think is too hard. Pick up a phone, dial the phone. I'm more than happy to work with you people. I'm just trying to get this done. This is costing, I noticed the other applicants, you didn't want a retaining wall because it costs too much. You have cost me so much money in engineering. The extra walls had to be built to hold 193, which isn't even in wetlands. The state said they were beautiful and they appreciated what we did. That's all extra money on my part. anything working in the pond, I had to get this special curtain, not a silt thing, which you want to let 1 million cubic yards of fill. Cost me $700 for this curtain on top of the silt fencing. So I think that I'm being discriminated against, picked on for no reason. This is ridiculous. I don't mind them taking the old things off the well. I had told J&D I wanted to use the old well for irrigation. There was nobody said anything that I couldn't. The next door neighbor has pipes coming from the pond and a pump going up his property. I don't know if he has a permit for that. But I didn't want to have something that looked horrible. I wanted to use an existing well to irrigate the property. I don't think that's too much to ask. I mean, if you want it regraded, he'll have to regrade it. I can only tell the contractor what you tell me, but if nobody tells me anything, I can't get down to that area of my property right now. I'm at the whim of the contractor telling me, yes, they did it. All I'm doing is paying bills and paying bills. You know, I have no problem correcting stuff. That's fine. I just want to live there, not be bothered, and have a peaceful rest of my life. I don't need the stress.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. You did receive the letter and it details the issues at hand.
Right.
Do you expect to have your engineer or contractor address those items?
Yes.
Okay. There is, again, I think.
I mean, there's no 6-foot retaining walls that are over 6 feet high. So, I mean, there's a grading that's off. When I first did the plans and J&D did it, I had to move the house 20 feet because the drawings were wrong that they did. So that cost me extra. I'm paying 3 times as much for engineering as I was quoted in the beginning. And it's not my fault the place was put in the wrong place. I'm not the engineer. I went to Harvard Med for my residency. I can do that perfectly well, but I don't understand a piece of dirt. You want 1 million cubic yards of stonework, and you have no questions on that? And by the way, French River is who I use for all the stone here, which is interesting.
I can appreciate your frustration, sir, and let's try to focus if we can on your issues here. All right. So you've received a letter, and you're going to discuss those matters with your engineer and your contractor.
Right.
If I understand your point, and I can appreciate having built a home or two myself, it's can be a little surprising when they have to blast or move things, and given the nature of the site, I guess there's perhaps some surprises that weren't anticipated.
Sure
So
was.
it can be frustrating. We gather that, we understand that, but we're just trying to look at the proposed, what was going to be done and what is done, and try to reconcile those points. And I know we've had multiple discussions over the last year or so now to do this, and we're sorry to hear of your
Yes,
health
and this
concerns.
site is a lot flatter than it was originally. Talking about drainage, it was a steep hill. We made it nicer so it doesn't drain anywhere. We put all kinds of rock, all kinds of drainage, all kinds of drains in the ground that were required. So we don't have a problem with the pond, with anything, or the neighbor. I mean, it was really steep when I first started going towards the neighbor. It's not anymore. It's more flat, which should be nicer. I mean, it's
Yeah. All right. We take your points. So I think the key thing is to perhaps consult with your engineers, who, as you point out, may have can give you guidance on that, or have whatever sources you want to address there. Your contractor, again, it's they work for you. And anything else you'd like to share with the commission?
no, it's fine. I'm just really frustrated. And like I said, I had a major problem and I'm just getting over right now. I will talk to J&D tomorrow and tell them what you guys want. And then is it a big problem using an old well for irrigation? I don't understand what the problem is with that.
That's a great technical question. I'm not a
It was there
subject matter.
originally.
Yeah, I'm not a subject matter expert on that. Do we have any comments on that from Marla? Do you have any expertise on mill wells, or should we
Yes,
consult with it?
I'll explain what the
Thank you.
concern is is the original drawing showed that that area was not, there weren't going to be any grade changes there. So that the concept was, is if there was any water that was coming down on the south side of the driveway, the paved driveway, it would remain on your own property. And if you take a look at the aerial photograph that's taken from across the lake, you can see that the filling that has occurred goes beyond that which was shown on the approved plans, where you've got that wellhead that was supposed to remain as low ground, so that it was clear that any water that could come down from the south side of your driveway would stay on your property and drain out. Using that old well for irrigation, that's perfectly fine. But I was surprised to see those two concrete structures on top of the old
I think he put
wellhead.
it there to
And the
preserve the
retaining
well
wall
is
going,
what he
yes,
did.
that's, yeah, and
Sorry,
then he
Mr. Bear?
extended the retaining wall right up to the edge of it.
Yeah, I
and it
wasn't
didn't-
aware.
I
Like
wasn't-
I said, I haven't been down there. I can't get down there right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this is where we're
Now, I
talking
do
about,
want-
right there.
that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And if you look up where the orange piece of equipment is, the
Yes.
excavator, you can see that he's got a lot of stockpiled stone, and that stone, ultimately, I'm expecting that that will be moved out of the way and that the grades will be restored back to what the plan shows, so that any runoff that comes down off of the driveway will stay on your property and not drain across into the neighboring property and drain across. They have a walkway that comes down and goes into the lake too. So that whatever was on your property would stay on your property. I knew that that stone was there temporarily, at least that's what I believed. But it looks
Yes.
like your wall construction is almost done, and he's still got a huge
No,
pile of stone
there's a
there, so
wall that has to go next to the garage to hold
Okay.
up. That's what the rest of the stone is for. Yes, right there.
On the left, on the south
Where you-
side here?
Where you were drawing, yes.
Okay, here. Okay, so we have a wall.
So that's what the stone is for, yes. I'm not stockpiling it. I don't need it for anything. I mean, it's except the wall.
Well, stockpiling just means you put it there temporarily for use
Oh,
at a later
right.
time. But it was
Right.
unclear to me, you know, what was his what was his plan to use that material or not, since everything else is kind of not quite exactly the way it should be. And I know you've
Well-
had problems with your foundation. And may I suggest something to you, is that I know that I was told by the building office that the back wall of the house where it was bent has been removed, has been demolished, and that they were going to be reforming and repouring a new back wall. No, that's the garage, George. The house
Oh,
is to
sorry.
the north.
Okay,
Yeah, supposedly this
And,
week they're going to replace it. Yes.
Yeah. And so the concern that that's not my concern. I happened to notice it when I was in the field, and I told the building official about it, and that's why he went out and looked at it. And it may be that whether or not you've had an engineer take a look at that to see whether or not the heavy equipment that your contractor used to build your retaining walls somehow affected that back wall and could have caused it to bulge if it wasn't completely cured. That's an issue between you and your contractor and your engineer.
Yes, well,
And
I'm
your-
very
and your-
glad the
your
building
contract-
inspector went out there, and what I'm finding is I don't think they put the proper amount of rebar on the back wall.
oh,
Okay,
So that's
right.
something which
Yeah.
I have no control over, and I haven't been very happy at all they did that, and I'm glad the town came out and did that. You know,
Yeah, so
they're supposed to replace it
in
this
any case,
Thursday.
that
So,
I think once you talk to the engineer, you know, once you get an idea of what exactly is going to be your schedule for getting the grading work completed, then there could be, when you're done with your grading work, then an as-built drawing would be done to show, you know, what exactly is there, so that everything can be signed off on as being correct, you know, correctly identified and correctly planned. But the area down by the wellhead, the old wellhead, probably needs to be pulled back, but you need to have your engineer look at it to see whether or not the survey work says, yeah, it has extended beyond what was originally authorized. Because you need
Okay.
that space to have that water come down on the south side of your driveway.
okay, that sounds perfectly fine. I will talk to them tomorrow.
okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bear. We'll get through this, I know. So let's find a way to do it. And all right, anything further on this item, Marla?
No.
Okay. All right, moving on to the next item. We'll wait for the response from the applicant. Okay, revisions to subdivision regulations posted on thompson.org for comment by January 31st, 2022. I know you sent some materials out late this afternoon, and I hadn't completely reviewed them. Well, I did take a peek at them. Perhaps Marley could discuss
Okay.
what conclusions you reached.
So, okay, so, hold on a second. Let me get my paperwork.
I can pull them up if you'd like on the
No,
screen.
no, I
No?
don't want them
Okay.
shared. I don't want them
Right.
shared yet.
All
Because
right.
they're
They're still in the
drafts.
works. They're draft. Okay.
So, yeah. So at the last meeting, you, all of you had asked that I requested a red line copy from Tira, along with a compendium of what the changes were.
Right.
So I had sent an email out on the 16th where I asked Tira, as a result of the discussions at its 12/14/21 meeting, the Inland Wetlands Commission requests it be provided with one, a red line copy of the proposed subdivision regulations that are up for review and comment, and two, a compendium or listing of the proposed changes so that they can better understand and comment on the proposed changes. It would be most helpful if you could forward the requested information to the commissioners and myself prior to the next Inland Wetlands Commission's meeting, scheduled for January 11th. I've included each member in the distribution of this email so that the distribution of the red line copy is facilitated by simply replying to all in responding to this request. Thank you for your assistance. And to that, Tara responded on the 16th, a little later let's see. She responded very quickly shortly thereafter. Good morning. Dan mentioned this to me yesterday. I don't have a red line copy, but what I can provide is a quote messy draft unquote that we used in the Zoom meetings. It is comprised of existing subdivision regulations with all of the marginal notes that we received as comments from outside viewers, plus what we arrived at during each discussion session. The document is outlined right now is the clear draft of the document as proposed. There are still some marginal notes included in that draft as well, where the PZC hasn't come to a clear consensus. Both drafts are attached here. I will say a couple of things about the two drafts, which hopefully will be helpful. One, the quote messy draft is messy in more ways than one. In addition to the raw notes and comments, because I had to convert a PDF to a Word from the original document, the physical formatting is all messed up. I cleaned it up as best I could do to work with it, but there are still weird line breaks and page breaks all over the document. Two, what we discovered as we were diving into the original document is that it was a kind of a hot mess in terms of continuity and language. Consequently, I would suggest that you only refer to the original text where you have specific questions about what may have changed and need the comparison. The continuity and flow of the revised document should be much easier to follow. As always, if you have any questions regarding the reasoning behind any of the proposed changes, please feel free to contact me directly. I am generally available via phone or email during office hours, and I'm also happy to sit down in person if you would like to go over anything at length. That was Tira's reply. So in response to that, knowing that you wanted a compendium of the major changes, at least the major changes,
Right.
I took the original posted current regulations that are in a PDF format and using Adobe Acrobat, converted it into a Word document that was not messy. It was very clean. And so then I took that document, that Word document, and Tira had provided the group that was doing the reviews, a Word document in October 25th of this past year. And I started comparing the two. And then I found that some of the stuff that was posted as the final proposal was not the same as what was in the Word document that I got on the 25th. So I have been working to develop a red line copy for the commission, as well as a compendium of changes. So what I'm finding is that there's been significant number of movement of set of texts. For example, the definitions section, which was Article 2 in the current subdivision regulations, got moved to the end as Article 4, and all the other articles in between got renumbered sequentially. So Article 3 became Article 2, Article 4 became Article 3, and the Article 2 became Article 4. And then there were other sections that were either promoted or demoted, which made it confusing, and trying to figure out why were these changes made. And I wasn't understanding them. I started looking around at the definitions. I had asked Tira several times during the process of the subdivision regs being worked on by others, because I couldn't have the time to spend on it while the group was meeting. And I said, I had noticed that I had missed when the zoning regs were put through, that there was a buildable lot size that was different from just a regular lot size. What it did is net buildable area. The net buildable area was the lot size minus the amount of wetlands, the 25% slopes that are steeper than 25%. And I think there was a third one that related to floodplain. And anyways, I asked Tara to make sure that that remained in the subdivision regulations, because I wanted to make sure that the Wetlands Commission was not seeing subdivisions that had lots that only had enough land to put a septic system on and a well, because you can't build a septic system on fill. But that wasn't done. Net buildable area was taken out of the definitions, and it was taken out of reference. Then the other thing that I noticed, that there was a lot of discussion about shared driveways, and shared driveways in the current regs are prohibited. And that's probably because when I first came here back in 2000, I think it was 12 or 13, I actually ended up having to go out to some property that had a shared driveway, and they were at each other's throats, the two property owners, about who was going to do the maintenance. And there was apparently some wetland watercourse area that went through it, and a culvert needed to be replaced, and they were bickering over who was going to do that work. And so I can understand why there might not have been shared driveways in the past, but here they have shared driveways being proposed, but there's no definition for a shared driveway. All these kinds of things add up, and you don't know what the effect is. So for me, how many driveways can be, how many houses can be shared on a single driveway? If there is a water course crossing, how does the Wetland Commission going to deal with that? How is it, so there's a lot of things that the town paid J&D Engineering under the MS4, under an MS4 contract, to review the subdivision language as it related to MS4 requirements for stormwater management and low impact development. And while reviewing the section on hydraulics, I noticed that the storm frequencies that they had, which originally were analyzed for the 2, the 10, the 25, 50, and 100-year return storm frequency, had now been shrunk down to the, I believe it was the 10, the 25, and the 100. Instead of having 5 different storms that you'd analyze for increases in runoff, you're only doing 3. And I didn't understand why that change was done. I did have a chance to talk to Janet Blanchett at J&D Engineering and asked her why. She said, well, a lot of that wasn't really necessary to have all those different storms, but that's not explained. And there's things in here that I have not had the time to finish creating the red line portion or the compendium of changes. Now, I shipped to each one of you a sample of what I was doing, and I've already spent over 30 hours of time outside of the normal, 15 hours that I do each week, trying to understand what all these changes are. And I think you're going to need more time. If you have a chance to take a look at those documents that I sent to you already, which is the definitions section, the article on definitions. There's a red line version for that. And I also sent you on the requirements of subdivision, I believe it was. And you can see by turning on and off the red line version, you can look at it by looking at all markup. Then you can look at it at the original, what the original looked like, and then you can look at what the proposed looks like. And you can see it can be very confusing. And there's been a lot of typo errors, a lot of structural errors that were for like letters instead of numbers, paragraphs not lining up correctly. So wasn't, I don't know that this was really ready for public review. It still probably should have had an in-house review. But all that said, I don't think having it finished by January 31st as the end of comment period is adequate. I'll be lucky if I finish my review to give to you for the red line version by that date. So
Thank you, Marla,
there you
for
have
that,
it.
for the comments. It seems like it's an onerous task. And I guess a couple of questions I have is, do you anticipate that there'll be, based on your review to date of the 38 pages of the red line plus 10 pages of definitions? It's interesting to have 10 pages of definitions for a 40-page document, but do you anticipate, or can you see any adverse impact on the inland wetlands as a result of the proposed changes?
With respect to the net buildable lot area, yes, I do on that. I haven't had a chance because I've been focusing on trying to get the red line, which is a lot of cutting and pasting into the original.
Right.
I haven't had a chance to really review the FEMA stuff, the floodplain information, as well as the hydraulics. There's been so many changes in there. I'm trying to understand what those changes mean. And right now I'm focusing on trying to identify where the changes are and what the changes are. And then I'm going to go through and review it and see if I could figure out what concerns I have based upon what the changes are. Now, clearly there were some changes that were needed in the current subdivision regulations. I can see that. And I'm
Right.
commenting, you know, where I see there should have been something done or some other change. But I just don't, I really find it extremely confusing. And I know how to read regulations
Right.
to figure out what exactly is going on here.
Okay, so thank you for working on the red line. Clearly, what I looked at was a bunch of post notes in a document that the final doc, you know, I'm not sure if that's a technical term, a messy mess or whatever she used, but I don't believe that's a typical business term we use, and maybe it's a governmental one, or it's limited to planning and zoning. But what I'm concerned about is that you know, there seems to be a rush to make changes without adequate identification and justifying clarification as to the rationale behind it and showing it. And you know, perhaps I'd be interested in what the other commissioners feel about this. But given all the amount of time you put into it, it strikes me that the average citizen certainly wouldn't be able to understand the difference. And as much as we all work for the citizens, that's why we're here, as well as the wetlands and under the statutory obligations in our oath of office, then, you know, I think we need something deliberate. Unless there's a compelling statutory requirement that this must be done by January 31st, then it strikes me that we should clearly communicate our concerns to the Planning and Zoning Commission and their staff to complete their review and deliver the requested red line, because it strikes me that, and I'm not sure how to, I won't characterize what I think may have happened or might have happened, so I'll just leave it at that. But it strikes me that it's odd that you're able to do it, but no one, you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission, which brings the question, why wouldn't they be able to do it? Or why didn't they do it? Or why wouldn't they want to do it? And why wouldn't they want to seek guidance on how to do it? So it raises more questions around perhaps that activity. But I'm curious what our other commissioners have to say. So commissioners, any comments, observations? Commissioner Obert.
Yes, I got a couple of thoughts. First of all, I agree. It seems like it's rushing forward, and I can't understand why. I helped to review the zoning regs when they came up for review, and they were years out of date. And we took a long time and still missed a few things. So I tend to agree that it is in the better interest of the town for this to be properly vetted and to make sure that people have the opportunity to put their 2 cents in. And I wonder if there is something that our town's attorney could provide us a clarification as to this red line and revisions of regulations, and how is there a requirement in the state law that says it needs to be A, B, C, and D? If that's true, are we missing anything? I just feel like it's trying to rush too fast right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Obert. Sort of echo some of the sentiments that we've heard already. Commissioner Morano, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, I feel that it would be better to take more time and do it correctly than to rush through it. It doesn't do the town any good, and it might just have to end up being gone over again. So that's my personal opinion.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Morano. Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah,
You're breaking up on us. I think you're mute.
I concur. I mean, it behooves them to do it correctly, and it's
Yeah, I heard the correctly. You're breaking up.
understood.
Yeah.
All right, well, I got it then.
Great, thank you. All right, so next step. So Marley, how does this stand with the planning and zoning, in as much as we don't know the full impact on the inland wetlands and the potential damage it might cause if approved and allowed to progress in further development? What are some possible alternatives at this point?
My goal was to finish creating the red line version,
Right.
and the compendium of changes,
Right.
and to provide that not only to you as commissioners, but also to the Conservation Commission, because Dan had told them that I was trying to develop a red line, so it would make it easier for them to understand where the changes are from the current regs to the proposed ones.
Right.
And so my intention is to complete doing the red line before January 31st, but then asking for additional review and additional time to see what changes the Planning and Zoning Commission might want to make. For example, I don't know why they moved the definition section to the end of the last article. And I haven't even gotten to the appendices yet. I have gone through Article 1. I've got it redlined. I've got a compendium of that. I've gone through Article 2. I've got that redlined. Article 2 is what are the requirements for the subdivision. And I've got the compendium for that. I've got Article 3 about halfway done. That's what I shared with you, my halfway done portion, and some of the compendium done. I don't have any of the appendices done. I haven't done the review of the hydraulics in a real sense of understanding where the changes were, why they were, maybe what the implications of them were, because that's what affects the Wetlands Commission. The hydraulics, the floodplain management issues, and I'm not sure how much this shared drive issue is going to affect. I'm concerned also about private roads. We have, the town has a number of private roads that are in existing lake communities that were created back in the 30s and 40s when those lands were subdivided. Those, to me, those private roads, they're identified by the tax assessor as private roads. They have addresses, but the town clearly doesn't own those roads. And then you have the question, can you create a new private road? Do you really want to create any new private roads? And how is building on those private roads handled? And what are going to be the responsibilities of the town? Because some of those private roads are really shoddy and they're not being maintained because they don't have taxing districts that take care of them like they do in other lake communities. And so then the question is, how are you going to do the maintenance work? These are questions that I'm trying to formulate now, but I have to go through and figure out what all the changes are before I can give advice, as because I don't know what's in it until I see what the changes are. So that's my goal, is to get the red line done by January 31st and ask for additional time, and ask the Planning and Zoning Commission to reconsider and develop a new timetable for this to address some of the questions and concerns, because there's a lot of typos and small minor stuff that should be fixed before the public really gets this in their hands.
Right. So
For
would it be prudent to identify that now? If they're looking January 31st, that's, 20 days ago from now. So, I mean, shouldn't they be alerted? And what about are they just going to vote on it, or are they going to pass this, or do they even need to?
the requirement is that they have to go to public hearing, just like you would as a Wetlands Commission by establishing your regulations.
Okay.
Has to be published twice. The problem is once you start the hearing process, it kind of goes on its own timeline once you
Yeah.
get to that public hearing process. So the question is, do you have a document that's not going to morph much? And I suspect this one's going to morph because of a lot of the comments that could come in, that
Right.
may come in. And so it's not ready for public consumption, I don't think.
And this document that you were provided by the Planning and Zoning Director, this was their finished document, right? This is what we're going to move forward with, or is it still evolving?
It's what was posted on their website.
Right,
So,
that's what
and
they're
it was
gonna use.
open for public, it was open for public comment to January 31st, 22. I do not know what their intentions are after that.
I see.
I
Right.
believe John Rice is in the is in our Zoom meeting at this point. He's muted, but maybe he knows what the plan is, because he's a planning and zoning member.
Well,
John, do you have any comments about what the plan is for the subdivision regulations?
well, there is John R. something. Are you sure that's Mr. Rice?
Yes, I saw him earlier in the meeting before he
Right.
stopped his videoing. So maybe he's not there now.
Or perhaps, or it could be left it on, or could just recording it. I know the first selectman says an ex officio member of commissions, I'm told, and I believe that was in the writing. Amy, any comments?
I don't have any comments at this time. I do know that they are trying to align the subdivision regs with the current zoning regs that were adopted and then revised in September of this year, because there is some inconsistencies. So to say that they're rushing it might potentially be overstated. They're just trying to make sure that both the subdivision regulations and the zoning regulations line up. There are several, well, at least there's one developer that I know of that is holding off because he believes that the subdivision regulations might change, and he's trying to prepare for a piece of land that he wants to develop, and he can't because the subdivisions currently do not line up with our current zoning regulations. So that's really the only comment I have. I'm always for not rushing things, but making sure that we get things done. And I really think that's where planning and zoning is coming from right now. So that's the only comment that I have. But thanks for inviting me in for the comment.
Of course. Well, you're says an ex officio member, so if you have just insight on this one, it's we certainly want to appreciate your insights, and you have a broader view than most of us do, so that's a plus. It's unfortunate,
Much
Mr.
appreciated.
Yeah, and thank you. So I think it's important that perhaps before they move to their public hearing phase, you might want to alert them to some of the, we might want to alert them, if you have that data, sooner than later, to any potential issues that may impact inland wetlands, right? That's the issue for us, is activities that are conducted in the inland wetlands and the upland review areas. And based on the proposal you've looked at so far, it's sounds like there are a few.
Exactly. And Marla had shared a few of those, and I'm waiting for her full analysis on how it will affect wetlands, and
Right.
and we do want to address those issues for certain before the subdivision regulations get
Right.
approved.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, it's unfortunate they weren't provided to us in a red line format, which is pretty standard practice, but I'm still confused about why that's the case, but I guess a question for another day. All right. Thank you.
George,
Well, yes.
one last comment that I would have is, if you want, I will notify Tira of what I'm doing, and tell her that I will provide her with a full red line version and a compendium when I supply it to the Wetlands Commission and the Conservation Commission, so that she can start working on it, because I did offer to her the converted current version in
Right.
a Word format, and she said to me that she really wasn't going to be working on that, that it was locked down till the end of January.
Sure.
So I'll just tell her what I'm working on, and that I will just supply her when I get finished with the red line version, the compendium. I will give it to her. And the Planning and Zoning Commission can do with what they want, because it will contain all my comments.
Sure.
But
Well,
there may
maybe
be comments that there may be comments that the Wetlands Commission wants to have as a whole, as a group, but it'll be past the January 31st deadline.
Right. Yeah. So perhaps the one possibility would be to make sure you include all the commissioners on the Planning and Zoning Commission, so they are all aware of it, so that it doesn't get buried in her email or something and maybe get overlooked.
Yeah, she doesn't get, things don't get buried in her email. She's very good at turning stuff around very quickly.
Well,
So
yeah.
I have no doubt about that,
More
but I
eyes-
will
more
share
eyes
it
on
with
these
more.
things can be helpful. It's
Yeah,
oftentimes we get get a bit myopic on what we do, and we can sometimes lose sight, or we don't have the experience and knowledge in macro view, like Amy has, or others, Mr. Rice might have, and he might want to know about those things and how they impact the sensitivity of the in the wetlands. But great. Well, thank you for that update. I did look at some of it, but it was kind of late in the afternoon, and there was a few other issues on my desk. All right, then, moving on. We've got that change. It's after 9 now. Budget request review, 22 to 23.
okay. George Marlabut speaking. If you go to page 68 of the Zoom documents, this is the same report that Diane would be reporting on.
Right.
And this goes to the 30th of December. That's a half a year. But you will notice that the grand total of expenditures, what's available and what's been used, it lists only 37.5% used. And if you look at my usage, my salary is probably, or my pay is probably the lion's share of those monies. And because I had over about 100 hours that I had not used due to vacation in October and then surgery in October, that's what I'm using now. So the number that came out as of yesterday is that 44% of the budget has been used. 44.6%, not 37.5. So the question is do you want any adjustments to the existing budget from year to year? Each year we've been able to have a little bit of surplus left at the end of the year. And we've been able to cover excesses in advertising. With that, we're already at $408 as of the end of last year. That's half a year. So we're probably going to be going close to $800. We'll probably go over budget on advertising. But because we typically go under budget in office supplies and meetings and fees and travel, we tend to be able to use those monies for the advertising when we have overages of the advertising. So at this point in time, I don't recommend any changes in the budget other than whatever incidental increases might be for non-union employees. And there's usually some certain percentage that they increase the pay by, some small amount, 1 or 2% each year.
Right. The only thought I had was, at least my observation is that when we had hoped to do this meeting actually by hybrid, but given the rampant expansion of Omicron, we chose to be safer not to. So, but do we expect any additional cost in the event we move to a hybrid platform going forward? Because I think that's important. And I noted with that it worked really well for most of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting I attended in person recently, as well as some of the other meetings.
Marla Butt speaking. No, I don't expect that because that comes from the selectman's office. The IT functions and the equipment for meetings comes out of the selectman's office. So if there's a need for a laptop that's dedicated for hybrid meetings to be able to do the Zoom portion, that's probably going to have to come out of the selectman's office, not the wetlands office.
Okay.
Budget.
Good. Okay, I have no comments. How about other commissioners? Commissioner Chapin, Morano, Obert?
But yeah, my only observation is what Marla said, because some of our costs, and specifically those costs to notify legal responsibilities, have gone up. Sure, okay, so we're juggling, and maybe we can get by. It does feel to me like it's cutting it closer than I feel comfortable with. I don't want us to be going over budget, but I also understand the wisdom to what she's saying, and I know how this town tends to vote about referendums on the budget. So,
well, okay, so maybe we just given inflation is being posted at substantially greater than it was in the past, maybe we do a nominal adjustment for cost of whichever CPI index we use here, and which one of the 3 or 4. But so do we have to, you have to submit something between now and the end of the month, or?
Yes. Yes, there was a requirement to submit. I believe it's by the end of this month.
Yeah. Well, then if based on Commissioner Obert's observations and the certainty that there is an inflationary factor in the economy, maybe take a look at some of those fixed costs, especially advertising and the things that are driving it, and do an incremental adjustment that might reflect what we expect in the future. And with the new planning and zoning regulations and all the new construction, we probably have a lot more permits and applications going. So we need to budget for that advertising. So why don't you take a look at that and do a reasonable increase on a year-over-year basis.
So what would you, well, when I'm looking at an increase, I can also move monies from, say, office supplies and move them into advertising. Advertising was set at 700, and I could move 100 easily from office supplies, or 200 from office supplies, leaving you only 200. The only thing that we use on office supplies, it's really not heavy on office supplies, so you could move it there without having a bottom line change. The real difference in your costs come in with the salaries, the increases for the recording secretary and for my pay. And those they can't calculate until they know what the contracts read. So each year, when you submit a budget, when a budget has been submitted, it's stated that it's been kept without, the bottom line has been kept, except for the pay for the agent and the recording secretary.
Okay. Those
typically have gone up by the amount that the contract goes up, but for the full-time people.
Right. Okay. Well, given the additional amounts, I think if you want, if you feel comfortable shifting it, then move a couple $100 up to where the expenses are. If you aren't utilizing the I mean, I never print these days and I only use a few pens, so everything's digital. And if that's somebody else's overhead, then it seems like that would be an easy place to look. And the question is, how much have we utilized of it in the past? I mean, have we used that as a buffer?
Well, let's see.
It's a trend
See
issue.
if they gave me. Unfortunately, I don't think I have last year's expenditure. They didn't give us the amounts for the prior years so that you can't know. When I got this printout from the finance office, I'd have to go back into the old records and see what the year end budget was and what the actual costs were to see what the trends were. But I can tell you off the top of my head that the money has typically been moved from travel and meetings and fees to advertising. And I don't think we moved anything from office supplies to advertising, but I think we can do that. But the bottom line increases by the amount that the contract for the full-time employers goes.
Well, we
That's
almost have
usually,
nothing. You have nothing in travel and nothing in meetings and fees. You have $25, right? That's the budget. So what's the 50 for
I
the
haven't
year?
expended any. There's only $25. That's correct. Travel
Yeah.
is for like use of your vehicle,
Right.
payment
Expense,
for your
right.
vehicle.
Sure. You guys
And
go to Hartford once or twice, you know, eat all that up. So it's,
Yep, you could eat up that, but you can also use the town's vehicle. The town has a vehicle that it's getting old, but
yeah,
that's a possibility.
right. Well, you know, I'd put, if we're expecting growth in the advertising based on all the new regulations and the more liberal, you know, zoning opportunities, then that would seem to translate into a higher amount. I would put the additional, if you need another $200 or $300 or whatever it is in advertising, then just request it, make the budget request.
Okay.
Because there's nothing
All
in
right,
anywhere
so-
else. You have nothing else, really. $20 is
No,
nothing.
I can't move much else
There's
around.
nothing. You have nothing to
So-
move around.
Yeah. So what I can do is I can add a couple hundred
Yeah.
to advertising.
I don't see my
All
drone
right.
in there. What happened to that? That didn't make it.
That would be under office supplies.
Yeah, 400
That's
bucks.
where it
I'm
would
not gonna
come
get a
under.
drone. Yeah. All right. Well, I would just put the couple $100 where we need it, and you know, move
Okay.
on. And if it turns out we come up short, then we just won't prove any permits or something, I guess, or won't advertise.
I've got a quick question. I hope it's quick. If, for example, we move the monies out of office supplies and allocate them for advertising, then everything else stays the same until we find out about the pay raises for town employees. However,
Mhm.
on the flip side of that is the what if we then have no money available and we need something, a new computer or any, is there some way that we would be able to file a bill or a petition to the town to say, hey, we cut our budget. We did it conscientiously. We did it thinking that it might have been cutting off our own nose, and oh, look, here's our nose on the floor. Now we need a new computer. Can we do that?
Well, the computers come from the selectmen's
Yeah,
offices.
yeah.
There's a budget for electronics, so that's not ours. But say you had an overage, say something came up and you didn't have enough left in the budget to cover everything. You'd probably have to go back to the Board of Finance and ask for an allocation. Because at the end of the year, it's my understanding, they try to balance everything out. And if there's overages beyond what was originally budgeted, they find the money somewhere else.
Mm.
You know, out of other budgets that haven't
Mm.
expended everything. That's
Yeah.
my understanding. But with Orla leaving next month, I don't know how this whole process is going to work.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll show you what you did last year. All the budgets I do, we show what we did last year to date. You have trends, and year to date, you've got part of it. It just seems like you're missing a column, but I still think you should just put the money, put in a request for a couple $100 more in advertising. There's nothing in travel. There's essentially nothing for meetings and fees. So you can't move anything from there. And I'm not sure what professional services are, what they is that an allocation or request?
That's
No,
if we need an
professional
engineer, if we have to hire our own engineer to review something like that property.
You wouldn't get any engineers to work for $300. I'll tell you, I wouldn't even work for $300.
Oh, I agree. We're already cutting off our nose.
Nothing
And
there,
I
so,
feel a bit of reluctance because my recollection is last year we submitted a fairly bare bones budget and it got cut before it even went over for the finance committee to review it.
Yeah,
So
well,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, budgets in the government side of, at least in my experience, are always, double it up, cut in half. It's what the federal government does. They budget for 50% increase. They settle for 20 and call it a savings. So, I really need to put it where it's advertising. And you can use I think the justification. You've got all these expansive zoning regulations, rewrites, enhancements to quote Amy, to get things done, which, will hopefully get done, but that's going to require probably permits and more advertising. So just put it in, put a couple $100 more in the advertising budget. And you probably should put more in for travel and meetings too. That's a budget. If they don't want to approve it, then fine. If you don't
What's your
ask, you don't
pleasure
get.
on the,
If you don't ask, you don't get. I'd make it $1,000 for advertising. $100 at least for meetings, $100 for fee for travel. And the original appropriation, is that annualized or pro rata? That's my concern. Is it 6 months? Is it 6 month numbers for everything? Because you should have the annual,
no,
year to date, and the actual.
no, the budget is annual. The year to date expended
Okay.
is 6 months, would be the 6 months.
Yeah. We've only got $200 through the advertising. So, 700 seems like it's prudent. So that's where I keep scratching my head. If you don't need it, you don't. I think you need to put some travel and meetings when COVID lists are going to need to move around and do stuff. And when we go to these site inspections, should we put in mileage?
I'm usually using a town car, but the commission members can put in for mileage for sure.
Yeah.
There's a mileage sheet that I would have to have filled out, which you mark down the miles and then you get reimbursed for that amount.
That's about 2 miles to the town hall. Then we drive around. Let's see, you put 10 miles in it. What, 55 cents a mile? So, $5 here, 10 bits there. We'll add up to and from. But if, it's, again, you said advertising, if we only use $200 so far, it seems to me that we wouldn't even come close to 700. Unless you expect a rush or flood of applications or posted legal postings in the fall or in the spring.
So look at it this way, if next year, if you're gonna include the revisions to your regulations, that's gonna require 2 legal notices prior to the hearing. It's gonna require another legal notice when the decision is made. And you'll have to identify what the changes are in your regulations. That may be quite lengthy legal notice. So next year might be an unusual year. It may come in this year, but I doubt it. This
Yeah.
fiscal year, but it'll probably be more like next fiscal year, because that's one of my goals is to get the regulations, the Inland Wetlands Commission regulations revised to come
Okay.
up to the current statutory standards.
All right, so incorporate it then. So you think $1,000 is going to do it?
I think $1,000 is more than what you need.
Well,
I think adding $200 would be fine. If
Okay.
you brought it
Do
up to 900.
great. I'm good. Anyone
And
else
then-
have a comment?
Then you
on
wanted
this?
100 for travel and 100 for meetings and
Yeah, I
fees?
think you should do that. Yeah, we're working in a atypical environment, and hopefully by next year we'll have a more robust economy.
Okay.
If we don't use it, great. Someone else will use it. And this we're requesting. They may not take it. But if you don't ask, you don't get. And if we did nothing, they'd say, well, you didn't ask for any. We didn't give you any.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else? We done with that?
I'll send the paperwork in. And that'll be $100 for travel, $100 for meeting and fees, and then 900 for advertising.
Right. And you've already got the
Everything else will be the
justification.
same.
All right.
Yep.
Budget and expenditures, wetlands agent report.
I don't know, is Diane still on?
Yeah. Diane?
I am, but didn't we just do budget?
Oh, we did a good chunk of
Yep.
it. Any comments? Wrap,
No, it's-
no changes. Okay. Moving on then to Wetlands Agent Report.
Hold on a second, let me get it out. I got too many papers here. All right. Updates. The status of count one of the court appeal on application IWA 15029 River Junction Estates. To summarize Attorney Bouillard's response to my request for clarification of the status of the Star Road and the court case involving IWA 1529 is as follows. And by the way, I sent you the actual correspondence, but I'm going to summarize it here. When count two was decided in favor of the plaintiffs, that Star Road was not a town road, then the permit could not be granted to River Junction Estates without the consent of the landowners. And it did not provide any reliance to any relief to River Junction Estates. Two, the conclusion of the court on that count negated any need to determine any further issues between the parties. That's what being moot on count one meant. The attorney advised that the town clerk retain the records indefinitely and that the Inland Wetlands Commission maintain a copy of the records for 15 years from the date of the final judgment. And finally, number four, as to ownership, the court was not specifically requested to determine ownership of the Star Road area, and any subsequent enforcement action should be served against the individual engaging in the prohibited activity. No progress has been made on the MS4 2019-2020 annual report. We should be doing a 2021 annual report or records disposal as I continue to set aside these to make time to review and comment by January 31st on the proposed draft subdivision regulations, and to review and verify the use of data collected under the prior MS4 contracts in a new map geo stormwater layer that was developed by Applied Geographics, which layer will be used to meet the requirements of the MS4 permit. On follow-up actions regarding complaint 2111, that's 208 Riverside Drive, Susan Eklund. That was one where we had a trailer that was believed to have somebody living in it with a septic system connected to it in the upland review area. The fire marshal has some issues with the propane tanks that are hooked up to the trailer. And I've sent a request to the Northeast District Department of Health asking if they can do an investigation to determine if there is an illegal septic system located in the 100-foot upland review area. This matter is on hold at the building office awaiting NDDH's input. Complaint 2114, that was in September, a report of large stones being placed next to the water at 3 and 4 Logie Road that had a wetlands agent approval. I will re-inspect it after the snow is gone in early spring of 2022 to check on site stabilization. Complaint 2115 was the report of clear cutting in wetlands at 1036 Thompson Road. And since my letter of, that was December 8th, 21, to property owner Carlos Fiorera, it is my understanding that Mr. Fiorera has had a soil scientist visit his property, but I've had no contact with either Mr. Fiorera or received any further complaints regarding his property. I'll check on the property status of Mr. Fiorera's intentions in the spring. And there were only 6 building permits that I reviewed in the past month. Discussions, miscellaneous, the PZC discussion of citizens' comments on the agenda. I recommend that the commissioners read the minutes of the PZC meeting of December 27th, 21, that contains a discussion on citizens' comments in the PZC's agenda. See Attorney Slater's comments beginning on page 16 of 19 of those minutes. It was suggested that a blank agenda be posted on the PZC webpage so that citizens will know when they can speak. I don't recommend this for the Inland Wetlands Commission because unlike the PZC, The Inland Wetlands Commission has its bylaws posted on its webpage under the section Rules and Regulations, and the bylaws contain the structures for the agenda. See Article 10, Order of Business. The next miscellaneous item was a solar field proposal at the Thompson Schools. On December 22nd, 2021, I met with John Rice and Brian Santos regarding a possible solar field to be located on vacant land owned by the town, located east of the high school and north of the track field. Wetlands delineations for the entire school property were done for the school expansion in 2005. And a copy of the plan containing the delineation was reviewed. Wetlands are extensive throughout the proposed potential solar field. I advised them to get the advice from a soil scientist regarding the soil's capacity and proximate groundwater elevations over time, and to review that information with the solar field developer to determine the extent of the wetland modifications that for any ground modifications needed to support the solar panels. That is, what do they need to do for grading and filling? If the wetlands modifications were greater than 5,000 cubic square feet, then the proposal would involve the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the DEEP. Finally, I suggested if after that there was a desire to pursue the project, they would need to assess the functional values of the wetlands to be altered, including its function for stormwater management. Regarding a selectmen's update article, the selectmen's office requested an article for the upcoming selectmen's update, which will be coming out in the next month or two. On December 27th, I submitted an article on how the public can use MapGeo's GIS application found on the town's website listed as parcel maps. I included cautionary language to use when using the wetlands layer, which can be used for guideline purposes only, and that is the actual character of the land that determines if it is subject to regulation as a wetland or watercourse. Then finally, a legal notice for wetlands agent approvals, WAA 2132, WAA 2133, WAA 2134. That was Popiac and the two Shippey wetlands agent approvals. Upon discovering that the legal notice for these wetlands agent approvals failed to be published on December 17th, I have sent a request to have the legal notice published on January 21st, resulting in an appeal period ending on February 5th, 22. And for that legal notice, I had to encumber $85 because it's going to be a larger legal notice. And that's all I have for wetlands agent report.
Thank you, Molly. A question. You mentioned that you met with Mr. Rice and Mr. Santos of the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding the PV array. What is where does that stand from a wetland standpoint?
I think they're in the exploratory stage, and I don't think they were there for the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think they were there for a commission that is looking into developing a solar field.
The building.
It could be the
commission?
building. Yeah. And at this juncture, they were going to do their research and homework to find out, one, if they had a soil scientist give an idea as to how high the water table was that going to affect the ability to put solar panels in without doing grading? If they needed to do a lot of grading and it was over 5,000 square feet, that was going to involve an Army Corps of Engineers permit, which could significantly increase the cost and the timeline, as well as a water quality certificate from the DEEP. That is why I said, look, if you need to do, if you're still going to pursue it, you really need to know what the function of those wetlands are. They all drain towards Thatcher Road. Thatcher Road already has a problem, a flooding problem, as it heads towards the Riverside Drive. So, there needed to be a little more research on that. And I don't think they had anticipated that.
All right, thank you. Okay, good. I have no other questions. Any other commissioners' questions for our inland wetlands agent report? Hearing none, let's move on to the next item is correspondence Eastern Connecticut Conservation District budget request for FY 22 to 23. copy of annual report for FY 20 and 21.
So this was brought up last time, but since you've looked at your budget and you've
Yeah.
decided that you're going to keep the $1,000 that's already been handled.
All right. Signing Mylars of IWA 21028 and Wojek Asuka 1574 Riverside Drive, Assessors Map 55, Block 65, Lot 14. So are they yet to be signed?
Yeah, well, I presented them to you on the Zoom.
Yeah.
If you share the screen share,
Ah,
and you go
okay.
to page 75, in your original approval, you said the commission did not want the dumpster located next to the cross culvert on the driveway, the internal driveway. And the condition on the permit said to move it to an area that is outside of an upland review area. So on page 75, that's the drawing that shows the dumpster has been moved and it is now located up closer to the state line outside of the upland review area, next to the building that has the septic tank near it. And that complies with the requirements of your approval. So that being the only change, then since it does comply with the requirements of the commission, everything else, these Mylars can be signed.
All right.
And that would have to be done by you, George.
I will. Yeah. So I'll have to stop over sometime this week.
Mm.
Possibly tomorrow.
call
Are
you.
around? Yeah.
No, I'm not going into the office.
Oh.
And Cindy, the zoning enforcement officer, was given the Mylars. She's out with COVID. So it'll have to be next week.
All right. Works for me. I have tons of work to do this week. So, all right. I see all these documents, the Mylars or the updated drive. All right. Let's move on to the next item. Comments by commissioners. Commissioner Obert, I'd like to
Yeah,
comment.
I hope I'll make it quick. Were there 4 or 5 items that we dealt with tonight that were violations that mostly could have been corrected with more cooperation from the applicants and clearer instructions from, the regulations that are in place in the town? I think that
There are 3.
we really should consider putting our concerns about the speed of passing this subdivision regulations in writing. We should tell them that, yes, we agree that they need to be comparable. They need to say the same thing, but they need to say it clearly, and they should be using this time to eliminate some of the confusion and problems that we're fighting month after month after month.
And you suggest Commissioner Ober, you suggest we should write a letter to the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Maybe the chair, maybe address it to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Collectively.
The chair and copy the whole commission so that it doesn't get lost in the inbox somewhere.
Yeah. I think you bring up an excellent point. There's 10 commissioners and actually 8, I guess. There's 2 vacancies on their alternates, but maybe it's a great idea. We'd like to draft that recommendation and we can take a look at it and advance it soon so that they can all have it soon.
Yeah, I can put together a draft probably this evening and bounce it over at least to
share
you
everybody.
and Marla
Yeah.
for your quick review.
And maybe everyone, Jan and Diane and Francine,
Sure,
and Jessica.
I'll do that.
Great. I mean, let's take a look. I mean, we all have the same goal to make the town better. So let's find a way to do it and without compromising the wetlands. Great. Thanks, Commissioner Obert. Commissioner Morano.
No comments?
No comments. Okay. Commissioner Chapin.
No, I'm all good.
Great. Thank you so much. I think, I've commented throughout this evening of the past 3.5 hours, so it's more than enough for me. And but I want to thank everyone for the dedication and time for this. Oftentimes we don't appreciate all the hard work that everyone does, and Dan Mallow's out there grinding away for us too. I see him in the hi Dan. So, and I do appreciate the assistance of
Thank you,
our
Dan.
moderator and ex officio member Amy St. Ange in helping us with this, and her insights is always appreciated. So I have no further comments, and with that, do I have a motion for an adjournment?
I make a
Move to
motion.
adjourn.
I heard
I'll
a
second
motion. I had a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Good
opposed?
night.
Hearing no opposition, the meeting is concluded at 9:40 p.m. on January 11th, 2022. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, you
Keep
too.